Welcome. My name is Wanda Rochelle. Welcome to today's broadcast. Again, I'm Wanda Rochelle, and I am a realtor and probate specialist serving Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. I am so excited today because we have a special guest with us. We have Attorney Stephen Scriber, and we are talking about today the wills versus the trust. So, thank you, Attorney Scriber, for joining me on today. If you'd like to go ahead and greet everyone.
Oh, yes. Hello. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So let's get right into it. I wanted to do this topic because I know a lot of people do not know the difference between a will and a trust. So let's go ahead and talk about it.
Mhm.
First of all, what is a will and what is a trust?
So, a will is essentially just a document that um it lays out instructions for your death. So it states essentially who you are, who's going to be in charge of your estate, the executor, and it's going to describe what should happen to your property, anything that's in your name at the time of your death, what should happen to that. In Georgia and some other states, it also can have instructions as far as guardianships for children under the age of 18. But it is more of a simple document that says who gets your stuff and who also gets custody of your children. It is not legally binding on you until the time of one's death. Anytime before that, it can be edited or changed, but it's not. It goes into effect after your death, and it has to be probated to then be approved by the court to then actually distribute your property according to those directions. Um, a trust is, in contrast, an entity you can think of it that you generally set up immediately. It becomes active at the time of creation and funding. So it's a document that also has people that are in charge. This person's the trustee, but that you fund it with assets, so you can put your house, bank accounts, insurance policies in it. And it also has instructions for what happens at the time of your death or incapacity, or really any triggering event that you want. Um, and it, since it's effective immediately, in that triggering event of your death may then cause the assets in it to be distributed. It would allow that distribution to occur, one, outside of probate, and two, you can add a lot more specific instruction to it as
Mhm.
far as conditions of when someone will get something, so you can make sure that children don't get are taken care of until they turn a certain age and then they get a distribution. You can protect people who are irresponsible with money, um, and really any other types of tweaks that you may need to do to suit your situation and kind of who your intended beneficiaries are, whether they're people, nonprofits, any other or friends, anything like that.
Okay, so based off of what you said, a will is effective when the person has passed away, but a
Mhm.
trust will be in effect while the person is still alive.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so explain that if um we have Mickey and Minnie Mouse, and
Mhm.
Mickey passes away and leaves the house to Minnie. If he has a trust, what does that look like? And if he has a will, what's the difference? What does that
Oh
look
yeah. So if they it's so if and assuming this is the house is just in Mickey's name, for example. So if Mickey dies and the house stays in his name, a will would be needed to be probated. So Minnie would take the will, file it with the local probate court.
like? Okay.
She would have to get the approval of the heirs, at least in Georgia. So if he had children as well, they would have to sign an acknowledgement saying that they weren't going to object to the will. They would file that. It would get processed. She would get a document called letters testamentary, and
Hmm.
then she could file what's called an executor's deed to transfer the property to her name.
Okay.
Um, Whereas if it's in a trust, assuming that Mickey set up the trust during his lifetime, he put the house into the trust at the time of its creation.
Hmm.
Hopefully, his lawyer did it. Upon Mickey's death, the house could, with likely automatically transfer to Minnie. So all Minnie would have to do was meet with her lawyer, and they would issue like a deed taking it out of the trust and putting it in Minnie's name.
So
Or
she
potentially there might be revisions in the trust. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So she avoids probate.
Yeah, it would avoid probate. Yeah, she wouldn't have to step inside a courthouse to get the property put into her name.
Okay, awesome. So what is the difference in and I know your prices are probably standard. What is the difference like in the base price of someone choosing to establish a will versus a
Yeah,
trust?
it when you said the price, so there's kind of two types of price with the will. So a will might be maybe like about 1,000, 1,250 for like a package like will, power attorney, health directives for a
Mhm.
couple. Um, there's also going to when we do a will, we also know there is going to be a cost for probate. We just 100% know. We just don't know when that cost will occur. So so at some point later on, whether they hire me, whether they hire another attorney, they're going to have to pay the probate court like a filing fee, which is usually about another $200, and then most probate lawyers are probably going to charge maybe around 1,500 to 2,500 to do a uncontested probate. So there's
Mhm.
going to be that cost as well potentially. Um, a trust package we still include a will with that because there are still reasons why we still may want a will, especially if they have kids under 18. But like a will, trust, power of attorney, health directive, funding, and stuff like that, that might be in a range of like $2,500 to $5,000, just kind of depending on what kind of assets. There might be some stuff that makes the cost go down. There might be some certain things that make the cost go up, like if a child has special needs and there's additional provisions that are doing Medicaid planning or if you're doing asset protection, it might be a more expensive trust. Having said that, it would still, if it's more expensive, those are probably a good reason. If the goal is to kind of get more protection on that, depending on what they're looking for.
Okay, awesome. So you kind of went into my next question, which was going to be, is it possible for someone to have a will and a trust, and why would
Oh,
that?
they should. Yeah.
Oh, they should.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as much as I think a lot of times in the state world, really when non-lawyers talk about, they talk about like you should have one versus the other, and I think it's more like having like a hammer and a screwdriver. They both accomplish different goals.
Mm-hmm.
So a typical trust-based package for me, probably literally everyone I know who does estate planning, they'll still include a will with it.
Okay.
And the reason why is that there's almost inevitably there's going to be some assets that don't make it inside the trust. Whether it's some people might inherit things they didn't realize, they may have things that are just out there that are still in their names for either they acquired it after they signed the trust and didn't come back to talk to their lawyers. Other stuff may have just happened. Or they may have a child under 18 and we may have to still appoint a guardian for them in that will.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of when you have a trust, you're going to have what's called a pour over will, which was going to have directions regarding your children if you have under 18, but it's going to say that everything that's not in my trust is going to then be put into my trust. The
And
goal is kind of to clean up your estate.
say that again. What kind of will was it again?
We record it as like a pour over will, POUR over will.
Okay.
And the goal of that is just to kind of make sure that if something's not in your trust at the time of its creation or at the time of your death, that the will leaves the rest of your estate to the trust.
Okay.
So
Awesome. This is good information. If you're watching, please make sure you share the video so we can educate others. My next question is, can you speak to the importance of having legal representation? Because
yeah.
I know that there are a lot of online platforms that people use to, have their will or their trust created. Let's talk about that.
Oh yeah. So I think it's extremely important if you're going to do planning to have some level of expertise. So I have very few skills in the world. I don't fix traffic tickets. I don't do divorces. I don't know how to fix my plumbing. I don't know a lot of things that I pay other people to do if I have that need. In the same way, like having legal representation to refer to that, even if you are only paying for like an hour at a time or anything like that, just to confer with someone who can give you some information. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good idea, especially with a will and trust or any estate planning, because if you mess it up, you won't really know it till you're dead, and your family is going to be the one that has to sort that out. And I've seen a lot of examples, just people come to me after someone's died and they're like, they meant to do A, B, C, and D. And it's like, that's not what the paperwork says. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's important to make sure you understand what the paperwork you're doing says and what effect it will have and what kind of cost it may create, whether it's litigation cost if your family's fighting over that will, or other just intrapersonal issues that may occur between people, that can be mitigated by having the right things in place. So I recommend it. The internet, AI and internet is very good at a lot of things. It will eventually. I like AI. I use it sometimes just to play with it. It's not quite at the point where it can do legal drafting, but even if it did, you'd still want to have someone who can give it some context.
Yeah, I know when I did my own estate planning process, it was really extensive. Let's talk about the questions. What are some of the questions that you ask?
Oh, yeah. So I guess kind of starting beyond just knowing the information like names, address, and stuff like that. We kind of want to start from what the client's goals are and work backward. Um, so whether if like a lot of times, if you're a parent of young children, the estate planning goal might just be make sure my kids are taken care of till they turn 25. And then
Mm-hmm.
if we have that, then we can engineer everything backwards from the trust to the insurance to um, to getting everything kind of squared away for that goal. Or for goals to support a nonprofit, your goals not to be sued, your goals to have, if you're a single person, to make sure everything is adequately set up. So if I have to go into a nursing home, everything is paid for. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but the main thing is there to figure out the goal and kind of then lay everything kind of infill in what the strategy will be to accomplish it. Then we're
Mm-hmm.
also just looking like just generally as well, like who do people trust? Who do you actually want to get your stuff? Who don't you want to get your stuff? There's a lot of times where um families are going to be more blunt. Who you want to leave stuff to, but they might not be the most trustworthy or responsible. So you
Mm-hmm.
might want to build in some protections for them,
Mm-hmm.
um, to kind of and so we can kind of work those things in as well to make sure that we also protect your beneficiaries, and your from themselves, um,
Mm-hmm.
which I've seen a lot in my years. A lot of people need to be protected from themselves.
So what about I've seen, just because I'm a realtor and a lot of times I'm in my role is when someone has passed away and the loved one hires me to sell their home, and there are people in the will that can't be located.
Oh man, yes, and that is a I've seen this problem happen before. Like I've worked on cases with wills from the 1950s, and estate. I'm working right now on an estate that was from the 70s that never got finished probated.
Hmm.
So we're now finding them, and all the beneficiaries have passed themselves, and so we're
Hmm.
having to find all their kids and grandkids and stuff like that. Um, but in situations where like if people drop off the radar or they can't be found, a lot of times we have to do things like hire air search companies. I have my own firm. I've used my own ancestry.com account to try to put together other people's family trees to try to find people.
Wow.
Done background searches, emails, hired investigators. To kind of find people and be like, hey, you're entitled to this amount of money and we need you to sign off so we can get that done. And then the ultimate, like, we can't find them. I mean, well, a lot of times courts can serve people by publication and at least allow the estate to be set up.
Hmm.
And then once the estate is established, we can ask the court to hold that person's share of the estate, for safekeeping until they hopefully emerge. And can come in and claim it once the property has been sold and stuff like that. But I'm sure you might know, any process where the heirs can't be found, getting to the point where you can sell the property, it is very time intensive.
Yeah.
It's like we're talking like months before that kind of process can occur, and then you can actually sell the house. If there's a will, we can't find people. That's a little bit easier if we can at least get it admitted into probate, and there's a power to sell there. But if someone dies without a will, and like half their heirs can't be found, it is a slog to get it to get the assets sold and distributed. And it's a real problem. Like if there's a mortgage on the property that's going into foreclosure,
It's true.
Tax bills, if it's a vacant property that's gone into disrepair, it could be a huge issue if your house is just sitting there.
That's true.
So,
it's crucial.
yeah.
Yes. In the real estate, we love the term time is of the essence, but that's not true in probate because
No.
we may wait and wait and wait and wait.
Yes. Like every county in Georgia has one probate. Literally, I mean, sometimes they have an associate judge or something like that, but there's one probate judge.
Mhm.
And they have all the cases, and they are extremely busy.
Mhm.
And they will get to your case when they get to your case.
True.
And I go bad. Like if we're a county like Fulton or DeKalb or Cobb, or there's a lot of people there, they have like thousands of cases every year. To get back to the top of that clerk stack, you have to wait your turn, and that can take a while.
Yes.
And the banks don't really like that.
Yes.
So.
Yes. I've dealt with a lot of times where they say, "Oh, the judge is out this week. He's at a conference."
Yep.
He'll be back in 2 weeks.
And the small counties are actually the worst in some regards. Sometimes judges will just go out. Like like a big county judges, you'll have fill-in, they'll have like an associate judge fill-in or something like that. But if we're in a county with like 20 people, seemingly they can disappear, and they may show up when they feel like it.
Yes. I'll tell you this. I had a house to finally close about a month ago, and there were 14 heirs.
Oh wow.
And they were in multiple states. And I was on the buyer side of the transaction. We were waiting for like 2 or 3 of them to, receive the notice and acknowledge it. So it can be.
I'm happy they acknowledged it. Sometimes they just don't.
Exactly.
Or they're like, yeah. And they have to go through a whole nother process.
So true. So let me ask you this, as a realtor also, I notice sometimes some of my investors, they own properties in multiple states. So what does that look like? Is there a separate will in each state? Is there a separate trust that has to be completed?
No. So you only need one will. And so the will should be done in compliance with the state law that you live in. So most states are actually, most wills meet the same requirements everywhere. There's like a standard list. So you should have one will. Realistically, you could also have one trust, really. But one thing I highly recommend if you have properties in 2 states or 2 or more states is to make sure your properties are actually in the trust.
Right.
Because the alternative is, like I say, you live in Georgia and you have a property in Alabama and a property in Florida. If you have no trust, no properties are just in your name, you have to first do probate in the state where you live. So you have to file the will for probate, and then get the letters of testamentary. And then if they're in different states, you have to file ancillary probate in each of those other 2 states. So now you're in this chain loop of probate after probate after probate, each meeting different requirements. Some of you have to get bonds, some of you don't. Some of you have different notice requirements. It's a huge pain. And and that's if they had a will. If they didn't have a will of properties in multiple states, it's like double that. Like it's the process. You just set a bunch of money on fire, and you made and you have to hire 3 different attorneys to sort it out. So so if you have a trust, you can definitely put all your property into your trust, and it will all those properties will bypass probate. You're going to start really getting your money's worth on that. You have LLCs, other things, you could put those in your trust as well. So there's a lot of things you could do, but if you have multiple properties in multiple states, I would almost certainly recommend getting a trust just to keep your probate costs down. Like your family will thank you because they don't have to chase down everybody.
Right. And I say this on every video that I do, that in all of this, the person is still lost a loved one and they're grieving. So
Yep.
that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like hard for a lot. I mean, I totally understand it's like hard. You just lost someone. Now you have to go deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will let that sit for a while, which I understand. But when you let that sit, if you let it sit like 6 months, that's one thing because you can still find everybody. I've had situations where it's sat for like 6 years, 10 years, 20 years.
Wow.
Then you're getting into people just don't realize you have to probate too. Like we've had a lot of property, particularly in Atlanta, like a lot of gentrifying areas, I would guess. Like a lot of people, like their mom bought the house in the 50s, then she may have died in the 80s. But the kid, one of the daughters in this case, or in many cases, daughter's son still lives in the house. They just took over the payments on it.
Mm-hmm.
But no one told them they had to do the probate. And then that child maybe passed like a few years ago, and their kids now find out this property that is now worth a lot of money, but now they have to probate all this stuff to get that ready for sale. So I would say don't wait. Waited time is your problem, especially if you get to the point where other people start dying, like the children start dying and stuff like that. Like, and that is extremely common.
Wow. So I want to make sure we have, if we have any viewers, if you have a question, to put it in the comment section. Other than that, those are all the questions that I have. Did you have anything else that you want to add, Attorney
Oh,
Scriber?
no, nothing else. I would just generally just remind people. I mean, those things you can, if you don't make a decision on it, someone else will make it for you. So, estate planning, not the most fun thing you'll ever do, but once you're done, you don't really have to think about it that often.
Mm-hmm.
And it will save a lot of money potentially.
Yeah, I do want to say this before we log off, is that I know that this is on YouTube and this video will probably be out there forever, but I know that a lot of times it's surprising to us that there's so many celebrities that have passed away and don't have their estate planning affairs in order. And it's so it's so evident to me now that today, and like I said, I know people will watch this video. Today I saw where Tina Turner passed away. And
Oh,
and you didn't know?
no, that's so terrible. Oh no, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah. So guess what? With me doing probate, do you know the first thing that came to my head was, I hope she had a
I hope so
large
too.
house, because
Yeah.
so many celebrities are, even the celebrities aren't doing it. So
Oh
yeah,
man, that
yeah.
is true. There are
And
about a lot. Like I remember Princess Estate, a few other like. There's a lot of people who are very optimistic about it and then never got it done, and
yeah.
it sucks a lot of the oxygen out of the process and makes it a lot harder for everyone. Which,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, and I know I'm not gonna pretend estate planning is easy. It took me, someone who does it for a living. It took me a while to do my own.
Yeah.
But it's something that will hopefully help people really think about their priorities, their goals, what's important to them, and also to make sure that everyone knows about that and their family knows that they care about them now, or their friends or their church or whoever they're leaving stuff to.
Yes. So moving to Atlanta, she said, great topic. Thank you. Thank you so
Oh,
much for watching.
thank
And
you.
Mommy 404, she said this was a great interview, and I appreciate the information. It is amazing, great interview. And I will say this, if you are watching this video and you do not have a will or a trust or both in place, make the decision to do it. Do not procrastinate. Give yourself a time frame, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You're going to have it done. Set that goal because it's essential. It really is.
Oh yeah, I co-sign that. Yeah. If
Oh,
we're in Georgia, we'd be happy to talk. We have like 15-minute
yeah.
consults. They're free, so
Yes.
definitely I'd be happy to answer any questions and stuff like that.
Yes, and I'm glad you said that because I will have Attorney Scriber's contact information in the description area of this video. He is licensed in Georgia. Obviously, we didn't really actually say that, but he's licensed in Georgia, and I know he's an amazing attorney. He's thorough, and what's interesting is that I met him via one of my clients who was in the process of getting ready to sell his home. And it's a probate situation. And he was telling me that he met this awesome attorney. And I said, give me his name so I can have him on my channel. And so even my client has vouched for you. So I will have his contact information in the description area. So thank you everyone for watching today. My name is Wanda Rochelle, and I am a licensed realtor and probate specialist serving Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. And thank you for joining us.